guess your accolades precede who you are and stuff like that. We got Grammys all up here. We got a lot of different things up here. So a lot of gems are gonna be dropped. I strongly urge you to, take some notes. But to start off the conversation, I just want to kind of give people a gist of who you are. I guess, Noise, you can go first. Who you are, your background, kind of just give us just 2 little bullet points. 2 little bullet points.
2 bullet points. What's
For
up,
people
everybody?
that don't know.
My name's Cyrus. Go by Noise. Stands for No Obstacles in Sight. Producer, engineer, head A&R for No Name Recordings. New label we just started up last year. Obviously, Ali's label. From the Bay Area. Been in LA like 10 years. Been doing music pretty much my whole life. And yeah.
That's good.
Light introduction.
Circuit.
What up? My name's Curtis. I go by Sircut. I'm also from the Bay. Me and Cyrus actually go back, I don't even know now, it's probably like 15, 20 years, something like that.
It's a long time.
Same thing, I'm a mixing engineer. I also do Dolby Atmos. I also teach the Dolby Atmos course on the EngineEars platform. So if you're not on the platform, hop on there. I know some of you are. I recognize some of you already. Get on there. If you're not Dolby certified, it's definitely a good course. I've been in LA for the last 4, maybe 5 years. And I basically came out here because of this man.
That's my dog.
That's basically what it is.
That's what it is. All right. Just for all the people that are like, can you raise your hand if you are on the platform? If you're on engineers.com? Familiar? Okay, that's what's up. Shout out to everybody on the platform. Noise, I guess we start with you. For the other engineers that's watching this, that might be watching this on YouTube or whatever, that are not here, right? I want to talk about getting started. How did you know being an engineer is something you want to do? Me and Ali go back almost 20 years. Yeah. I remember him sitting in Top Dog's back house like, yo, I'm gonna make a lane for engineers because engineers do all the work. We don't get none of the credit. They're not on the stage. They don't get all of the fans cheering.
Facts.
What made you want to be an engineer and not get no credit?
Man, it didn't start that way, to be honest with you. Really, when I was in high school, I started making beats, and that was like my main focus. So I didn't really start mixing like that until I had met Ali. I was interning at a studio in Hollywood, basically just trying to get my foot in the door type shit. Like I had read all these articles online, like Pharrell talking about like that's how we started, was the internship. So I had moved to LA 2012 when I graduated. I was working at the bank. And I was basically just trying to figure out how I was going to make the music shit happen. Really, I wasn't even thinking about engineering, but I had been making beats all this time, been making records. I used to be an artist in high school. Like, a lot of engineers start out as artists, so I was on that whole wave just trying to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. And then through the bank, actually, I met the homie Ricky Riera. He was part of Produced by THC at the time. So he was like a client of mine. We just kind of like got to chopping it up. Long story short, I ended up interning for him in his studio, and he real close with Ali. So eventually that studio became his and Ali's studio, and I was just kind of one of the interns, just being around as much as I could. Really, I was there watching them make beats and shit. Like, that was my whole thing. And then next thing I know, Ali's in there, and all these other sessions start happening. So like Mac Miller starts showing up, Ab-Soul starts showing up, Schoolboy starts showing up, SZA starts showing up, and I'm at the bank all day like trying to figure out, like, I'm fucking up. Like, I've been here for like years, you know what I'm saying? Other engineers showing up, they getting sessions like over me. And the whole time, all I knew was Logic. I didn't know how to use Pro Tools or none of that shit. So I'm just like, well, shit, if we want to run in Logic, I'll do that shit. But I can't do the session. And it got to the point where basically I just had to make a decision to start being around more. And I remember one night I was over there and Ali was working on, it was That Part TDE remix, and I was just sitting on the couch like just watching bro work, and he was just like, hey, could you just turn up Kendrick vocals for me real quick? And then he just like walked out the room. And I just looked at the computer like that shit looked like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. If you never used Pro Tools before,
can you just turn up Kendrick's vocals for me
yeah,
real
right
quick?
like little light
I'll be
flex.
right back. Yeah,
so like, first of all, if you don't know how to use Pro Tools and you look at that shit, it's intimidating as a motherfucker. Like, you accidentally hit the wrong button on the keyboard and like change some whole shit, you don't know what's going on. So at that moment was when I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to learn this Pro Tools shit, cause
this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
So you, just so we're clear, your introduction to being an engineer was turning up Kendrick's vocals.
Yeah, I guess
Okay,
you say
okay,
that.
all right.
Damn, I didn't even think about that. That's
Okay,
crazy.
yeah,
That's amazing.
Hey, you didn't think about that.
I didn't think about it like
Let's
that.
note
Nah,
that
for
as well.
real.
He never thought about that. Okay.
But obviously, it was a moment, you know what I'm saying? So it was another assistant in the session, and I was like, hey, bro, like, help me figure this shit out. And then from there, yeah, just figured it out. But I never thought I was even going to learn that. I thought it was late. I'm like 22. I'm like, man, it's too late for me to learn Pro Tools. It's quiet.
Right.
And then I had to figure that shit out from there.
Yeah, I think learning Pro Tools is something that it's a learning curve for everybody depending on how you learn, right? Some people YouTube University, some people go to school for it. Me, I just hit 3, you know what I'm saying?
That's all you.
Just
That's all I
hit 3.
knew.
You
That's
know?
all you need, man. Shit 3.
Circuit, what made you want to get into it? Like, did you get to adjust Kendrick's vocals or anything like
Nah,
that?
my story was a little bit less cool.
Okay.
No, I was the same as him. Like, we was going to school in the same area. I'm just a little bit older, and same background. I was like an artist. I did production, all that stuff. Me and him used to make beats together, just link up. That's how we met. I remember, like, we was like, I think I was just out of high school, and you was just finishing high school or something, and he would like deliver pizzas, and this fool would just swoop me up. And
Yeah, he left that out. But
we would just freestyle,
was
like
earlier.
we would just freestyle. We'd go from each delivery, just freestyling, and that's how I got familiar with his music and became a fan of him. And we just became boys. He went to college. I did not go to college. I went and started working in the studio like as soon as I could, but I was up in the Bay Area, so I was just moving around, interning, same stories, cleaning toilets, you know, doing whatever. Eventually had somebody hit me up to be the head engineer of a new studio that was opening up, and took that opportunity and just built like a whole clientele, and then became full-time. The whole time he was out here, I was keeping in touch with him. He was telling me he's got all this stuff going on. He became an engineer. We started like vibing out over that, and I would just come visit and just kind of see what shit he was on. And then one time he was like, yeah, pull up to the studio, and it was Paramount.
He gonna act like he didn't sit down on a crazy first session. Watch what he about to say.
So I pulled up to Paramount. First time I think I ever been to LA. And I pull up, and they're at Paramount Studios. I walk in, I'm like blown away by the studio. Like I've been in our studios, but nothing with like an SSL console or nothing like that. So I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like smiling ear to ear, all that. And I meet Ali, super cool. We all sit down. He was like middle of working, so he kind of like stopped just to say what up. And we sit down, and he just presses play, and it ended up being This Is America. But he didn't leave the room and tell me to turn the vocals up or nothing, you know what I'm saying?
okay, so just so we're clear, your first session in LA was This Is America.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the #1 record
yeah.
in the country, by the way. All right, continue.
Yeah, he won a Grammy for that one too. Yeah. Super crazy experience though, like just being in there watching him work. I had never heard music that loud in a room ever in my life. I remember like the first time the snare hit, like I almost cried. I went out to like the lobby in the front, and I like smoked, and I was like not trying to go back in. Then I heard him like turn down to the NS10s, and I was like, this is my move, and I like went back in. But it was definitely an adjustment period. Like, it's not like the whole mix, but you know, it'd be loud in there. I'd never even heard mains. But fast forward, I'd go back and forth, and he had started doing EngineEars and everything, and he just asked me if I wanted to start doing some mixes for EngineEars and kind of see how it works. So I did some mixes. Everything worked out, and then I just was like, I got to get to LA. Like, I'm already older. Like, you know, Roos was saying, like, I felt like I was old when I came out here also. So it was like, when I hit the ground running. So right when I came, I got an opportunity to go track for Hitmaker through Ali. He sent me there right away, threw me in the fire.
Fire.
That worked. It was a fire. That worked out. And then I eventually got the chance to come back and then start assisting him and really like learning the craft of mixing. Like I was already mixing on my own, but you know, I'm self-taught. So I'm like learning things, trying things, and then just sit down and see him do what he does and like kind of just soak up game. Like that changed everything for me.
So it's 3 things that y'all touched on and I want to go back to from your perspective, right? The first one being, Roos, you went to school.
Yeah.
You went to school. Sircut, you didn't go to school for it.
I didn't go to school for music,
Yeah,
though.
he just went to regular
I got a
college.
degree in finance.
Okay, so you didn't go to mixing. I mean, you didn't go to music school, right?
Right.
No, okay. So the other thing is, finding your way. I want y'all to touch on that, and then also making a decision to quit what you're doing, quit your job. Right? When do you know when do you know when to make that pivot? When do you know to up and move? Is anybody not from California? Raise your hand. Okay. So to Circuit's point, what he just said was, I got to get to LA, right? That could be, for you, that could be anywhere. That could be Nashville is a hot place to be for music. It could be Atlanta, it could be New York. Whatever that is, how do you know when to one, I guess, for you, Noise, I want you to talk about when you make that pivot or when you make that decision to quit your day job at the bank or whatever it is that you do to go all in on the music. And then Circuit, I want you to talk on making that pivot and leaving your comfort zone to move to another location to go after what you want to do.
Yeah, I feel like that decision in itself was like by far obviously the best decision I ever made in my life, but like it took me a long time to get there. I always knew I wanted to be in LA to do the music shit. Like that was still always my number one priority. I went to college and got a degree in business finance just because that's just like what my family wanted me to do type shit. And then once I was getting ready to graduate, I used that as a tool to get to Los Angeles to where I knew I would be able to make money and survive, you know what I'm saying, find an apartment, be able to pay my rent, and also use that. I started working for Wells Fargo. So it's obviously it's Wells Fargo's everywhere. So I talked to my manager. She was cool as fuck. And I was like, look, I'm trying to go down to LA if you could get me situated. So she set me up with the transfer. I found a little studio living behind some dude's house down the street from the bank I worked at, and then I came here. So like that was step one, was like just put yourself in the situation. And then after that, it was really just a matter of being around as many people I could in that world and just trying to keep in mind that like the bank shit, I never wanted it to be a plan B. It was more so just like supplemental to the plan A. So like I was getting promoted damn near every year that I'm working at the bank. And I keep getting more money in my pocket, more money in my pocket, more money in my pocket. And it came down to it where they wanted to make me the assistant branch manager and they wanted me to do some other job. And it was cool. I was making like 50, 60K a year. It was comfortable. This is like 2014, 2015. But at the same time, I had been interning at the studio every night while I'm working at the bank. And I wasn't getting paid at all. So basically the situation started to turn into them telling me I need to be available for more sessions, but still not really, like, it wasn't no bread yet, you know what I mean? Ali had only been there for like 2-3 months at this point. I had been there for a year and a half, 2 years. So my phone is just blowing up all the time. All these people coming into sessions like, yo, can you record SZA tonight? Can you record Mac tonight? Can you record so-and-so? And I'm having to say no because it's like, yo, the session starts at midnight. It's going to go till 10 in the morning. And I was like, bro, I just can't. Like, I got to be at work. So
you turned down the SZA session?
I had to turn down. I'm finding myself turning down these sessions because I got the day job. So at that point was when I was like, all right, I'm fucking up, obviously. So I had a couple homies. I was driving Uber at the time. This was also, Uber was relatively new. This is like end of 2014, started 2015. And they were making bread. Like, they was getting by, paying rent, which the whole time was what the bank was supposed to do for me. So my whole strategy was, while I had the job, I was going to get a new car and then like show my paychecks or whatever for income, like loan out a new car. I got a Hyundai Genesis because I could do like a little bit nicer Ubers with that shit. And the homie was like, bro, you just got to wake up and fucking do airport runs early in the morning. So I got the Hyundai Genesis. My branch manager like offered me that new position. I basically told him I was going to think about it, went back the next day, told him I was going to quit. I gave him my 30 days notice. And then I tried to do everything strategically. I was like, look, I'm going to still give you the 30 days because if this shit doesn't pan out, I'm for sure going to come back and I'm going to need a job. So, like, I didn't want to burn any bridges along the way. So, basically, he was super supportive, too. Let me go. I started just waking up 4 a.m. every day, driving Uber till, like, 10, 11. And I could usually make, like, 200, 250. And then my goal was to just be at the studio the whole rest of the time outside of that. And then literally like a week after I quit my job, got a call at 2 in the morning, woke me up out my sleep. And they was like, yo, SZA's coming in. She's trying to record. Like, it was the studio manager, Matt, at the time. He's like, I know you've been saying you want to get in with her specifically. So like, she coming in. Like, can you do the session? And I was just, for the first time, like, I didn't have the bank, I didn't have nothing. I was like, yes, bro, I'm pulling up. So I pulled up at 2 in the morning. She had just got back from Chicago, and then for whatever reason, she wasn't feeling the room. Like, she wanted to, like, have a whole situation with, like, plants and, like, get all this other shit set up. So she's like, yeah, we got an Airbnb. Can you just come build a studio over there and vibe with us for the week? And I was just like, absolutely. Like, let's go. No idea how to use Pro Tools. I was like, yeah, let's go.
You don't know how to use Pro Tools?
I do not know how to use Pro Tools. I don't know how to playlist. I don't know how to do nothing. So I go set up the whole studio at the crib. I knew how to do all this shit. I've been making beats for years. I've been writing songs for years. Like, I knew all the shit, but I just didn't. It was new locations of the buttons. You know what I'm saying? So I knew what needed to be done, but I just didn't have the ability.
So you agreed to run the studio session for SZA,
yeah,
not knowing how to run Pro Tools?
At all. I had no idea how to use any of this shit. And so I pull up, we start recording. It's going, like, cool, but, like, I don't know how to playlist. So, like, if y'all use Pro Tools, like, you know how to fucking, you post a playlist while you're recording somebody. So I don't know how to do that. So what that means is basically every time she does a take, if she's like, yo, let me get another one, I'm supposed to just tuck that one. But I don't know how to do that, so I'm just deleting shit. But bro, every take is amazing. So I'm like, yo, like, you really didn't like this one? She's like, no. I was like, you want me to delete this shit? And she's like, yeah, like, you could, we don't need that one. We don't need that one. And I was like, yo, these are all, like, really good takes. Like, you sure you want me to delete it? So I'm just deleting shit. I'm just somehow finessing, finding my way through the session. And, like, this shit, my boy dying over it. And my shit just working out. But he know that's outrageous, right?
That's the ultimate finesse.
Bro, I had no idea. So, like, I was saying shit. I was just in there in the sharks, bro. And then I'm deleting everything. I'm saving up in between takes. I'm like, oh, it'll be there next time, like, if I go back. But luckily, it was never no issues. She's fucking amazing. So, like, she's going to get the take. And then just kept going from there. Some of those records ended up being on Control. And then that's how we got on there.
Shout out to you. Yeah. Shout out to you with the ultimate finesse.
Crazy finesse.
Ultimate
Sometimes,
finesse.
Hold the questions to the end, bro. Okay, Circuit. Damn. I want to talk about the pivot and putting yourself in position to be around, to be more involved. You made the move. A lot of people have. Has anybody moved out of state to do music? Anybody?
Nice,
okay.
Nice.
So yeah, speak to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, it was actually really 2 moments. The first moment I went full time doing music. I was just like going into my work. Same thing with him. Like I was making cool bread. I was like a waiter at Morton's, but it was like fine dining, so like the bread was cool. But I just went into work one day and I was like just super unhappy. Like I don't even want to be in this room, whatever. And I just walked in and put in my 2 weeks notice and I just dipped out. So I went to the studio, built that clientele. It was definitely the first few months building clientele is like, I didn't really think it all the way through. I didn't have money saved up, nothing. So it was like a grind. Really the move out here I could attribute to like the support system I have, to be honest. Like Cyrus was a big like advocate of like, if you really want to do something with this shit, like you got to be here, like, or in a music city.
You got to be around.
Right. And so I'm like, I moved around a lot as a kid, so I wasn't really like trying to move. I was like, I'm done moving. But I started getting older and I was just like, I'm already at the ceiling out here, like in the Bay, like I'm working with all the people out here that I want to be working with. We're putting out cool shit, but like, this is the ceiling. Like I have nowhere else to go from here. There's no labels out here at the time. Like Empire didn't exist yet. So I started saving up my money and I quit smoking weed, which is, if you know me, is a big thing. But I quit for like a whole year. I saved up like 20 bands. And I was like, I'm going to LA, and if I don't make it happen with this 20 bands, I'm going back to the Bay, and it's over. So I came out here and literally landed. I landed in my plane. I had an air mattress in my apartment. That's it. There was nothing else in there, no TV, nothing. Went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and I came here and did audio for EngineEars' first NAMM show with Ali, and I ain't never done live audio in my life.
The ultimate finesse.
Yeah, I was just tracking vocals, so I was like a vocal producer.
Under the table, sweating.
All that. Yeah, so like, I pull up and they got like a mixer, they got all these mics, everything. They just like, we need interviews, we're gonna set it up like this. And I was like, got you, bet. Wing the whole thing. Everything worked out. So I say like, the thing is like getting out of your comfort zone. I know everybody talks about it, but it's like, if I didn't move to LA, if I didn't decide to leave my job, if I didn't, come to NAMM and just say, yeah, I'm good with doing that and just do it without nothing, like, I wouldn't be here. Similar to what, Cyrus was talking about, like, you don't turn down the scissor session even if you don't know how to use Pro Tools. Like, you just got to go do it.
That just sounds crazy, though.
It does. But that's why it worked.
I went on a whole tour.
That's why
I went on tour with YG. Did not know how to use Pro Tools. 3-month tour. That's where I really, really learned.
Hey, but he came back a beast on Pro Tools.
Came back crazy.
Crazy after the tour.
So the running theme is just say yes.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yes, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's a big part of my story, too. We don't have a lot of time, but we're going to have questions, but I do want to talk about mentorship, how important that is. You guys have found mentors in Ali, which is crazy to be in your go-to. One, how does somebody that's watching you all story go about finding mentorship and then also receiving criticism from that mentor?
I think for me, I was lucky because, I knew Cyrus. He had kind of fallen in with Ali, so I kind of got brought around. The funny thing, though, was that Ali was already my favorite mixing engineer. So, like, I was back in the Bay, and I'm, like, listening to Kendrick and stuff, and I'm like, why does this fool sound so much better than everybody else? So I started, like, because of him, I was looking up, like, who mixing engineers are. Like, who are these dudes that are mixing all these records? Like, I'm running into, like, Manny Marroquin's name and his name on, like, everything that I like. And then I'm, talking to Cyrus one day, and he's like, oh, yeah, I just be doing stuff for this dude Ali. And I'm just like, MixedByAli? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's crazy. So, like, the first time he was like, you got to come out here to L.A., like, I dropped everything I was doing. I spent my last dime on a flight. I came right out here, like, guess it's like one of those, like, take $500,000 or take dinner with, whoever. And it's like, I got dinner with Ali and it worked out. You know what I'm saying?
But what about taking criticism? Because there's some Grammy nominations on the stage right now. You know what I'm saying? Taking advice or taking criticism from mentors, like, how do you go about that? What's the approach? Is it a complete removal of ego? Either one of y'all?
Yeah, you got to be open to that shit. Especially for me, like, coming in, I was young, I was hungry as fuck, and I was ready to soak it all up. Like, my first time, like, again, since I was making music, I had an idea of what engineering was. Like, I didn't really understand that there was a separation between mixing and mastering, like, initially. Curtis was an OG. Like, he was really mixing shit, too. He was making beats and making music. We was both doing the same thing. But he had an eye on the engineering part, like, way before I did. So he was the first one who showed me, like, a EQ curve or, like, this is this. And, like, I was still in college at the time. And I just remember I would make records and people would be like, yo, it's tight, but I don't know what the fuck you saying. So that's when something clicked in my head to, like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this shit sound a certain way so that you could understand that. And I used to just have hours of conversations with bro on the phone because he was in the shit. Like, he was really mixing shit. He was running studios, doing all that. So while I'm at school, he's already getting his feet wet. So he's just telling me all his plug-in settings, sending me pictures of shit, like telling me what does what. So in that sense, I had the idea of kind of like where it needed to be. When I got to LA and I found a mentor in Ali, it really just happened because I was kind of like one of the few interns at the studio that he just kind of like fucked with to just be around without feeling like I'm around. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big thing, is being able to sit in the room and have somebody be comfortable just sitting with you in complete silence for like fucking 3 hours, like 12 hours, however long it's got to be. So Ali, obviously, he was gracious as fuck to let me sit elbow to elbow with him and watch everything he was doing. So while I had an idea what mixing was, I was doing it lightly in Logic. When I first started learning how to properly mix and in Pro Tools, I learned on the SSL board. So I didn't learn how to mix in the box. Like, I learned how to mix on the board. And then when it came time to double back and start mixing records in the box, it was a whole other learning curve for me. But basically, with Ali as a mentor, that's what gave me all the juice to be confident in mixing records, to understand what I really need to do, what I don't need to do, how like doing less is doing more in certain situations. And just having someone like that you can lean on to guide you, not only in the decision making sonically, but like mixing wise, but also business wise. Like as an independent audio engineer in this world, you got to go through a lot of fucking trials and tribulations, and you got to navigate a certain type of way so that people even want to fuck with you again. Like you can't be pressing people for checks a certain type of way. You can't be doing certain things at sessions. So all of that came along with it. So needless to say, like without him, I wouldn't have gained all those additional skills to be able to even hold down a room by myself. When the time will come, like Curtis just moved to LA, for him to be able to have confidence sending Curtis off to hitmaker sessions without anybody else, like as an extension of him. So what you got to realize, especially when you do find a good mentor, is you're always going to be an extension of that person. So you need to soak up all the game they're going to give it. And when you put yourself in those rooms, you need to act as if they still sitting there with you and basically do right by them, like along the process.
That's what's up. I want to take some questions. Last thing for y'all, both of y'all individually, is how has EngineEars, the platform, right? How has EngineEars changed the way your workflow, and then how has it made your life easier, better, anything like that? Whoever wants to go first.
Kurt, go ahead.
For me, it's having your, the whole business is in one spot. So like now that I'm doing Atmos mixes, stereo mixes, all that stuff, like I don't need to have like multiple different Excel sheets or anything. Like it's all there for me. Even if you have one Excel sheet, like it all does that for you. So it helps me there. I will say, like, I didn't even think about Atmos at all until I was on EngineEars and they had the opportunity to do the program. I just happened to, after I did the program, like when I came up, since I'm a little older, like I couldn't just go on YouTube and like research some stuff and like do some stuff. Like I had to read books. Like that's how old I am. I had to read books to do this shit. So I'm like reading books, but there was nobody that I could go to that was gonna help me. Like, so when I got through the Atmos program, like I wanted to try to help other people be able to like find Atmos and take advantage of it while it's still new and young. So for me, like it gave me that opportunity even just to like be in a position to help other people out, which in engineering, like whether you're a teacher or not, like your peers, like you're gonna learn stuff from them. Just like I taught him how to EQ when we were like 13, and then I moved to LA like 15 years later, and he's teaching me how to use the SSL. So it's like, you're always gonna need each other, you know what I'm saying? So it's always a community thing. So I feel like EngineEars makes it that way. Like it makes you feel like you're in a community and that people are there to help you succeed.
What about you? How's EngineEars helped you or changed your workflow?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just heavy on the creativity, heavy on the collaboration. Like you're gonna meet other engineers on the platform. You're gonna be introduced with other artists on the platform that you otherwise would have never met. People in different countries that you never would have met. The way it's all set up to recommend you to somebody based on their sound, all of that is just like, it's just putting more opportunities in your lap. In addition to the Atmos initiative that they've been doing with Dolby and being able to just get extra bread on top of stereo mixing and being able to be at the forefront of the transition from stereo to Dolby Atmos is like, that's massive. As I remember watching Guru sit right here last year talking about how he was one of the first cats who was really hip to Pro Tools when it came out. And that's why his phone was getting blown up all the time, because it was Pro Tools sessions, and he was the one who knew how to do that. So without the Dolby Atmos certified engineer program, I wouldn't have known how to do all the Atmos shit. And that's been a huge part of the additional bread that I've been able to make in the past year.
That's what's up.
It's a huge initiative.
More bread sounds good to me.
More bread, more opportunities, more information. Like you can't
not
lose.
check chasing. Check chasing is a nightmare.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Hunting down people for because they want the stems, and it's like, bro, you haven't paid me yet.
Facts. Crazy.
So if anybody has like their own cameras, they want to get questions, they're gonna be right on the opposite side of this wall. You can meet them right now, and then we'll reset it and we'll start the next panel about 12 minutes. All right, thank you.
Good luck ahead. Appreciate you guys.